In this introduction to trend-driven innovation, I want to start by saying it's not about what's #trending. We're constantly exposed to a flood of new products and services, new marketing campaigns, new brands, new business models, not to mention other changes like new technologies. And of course, you don't want your new product development or your campaigns to just keep delivering more of the same every year. So you want to keep up with changes in the consumer landscape. But you also don't want to be jumping on the bandwagon of short-lived fads. So we'll be discussing designing innovations through the lens of basic human needs and wants, those long-term needs like connection, self-expression, the desire for positive impact, social status, and so on. Now, this approach isn't about mining historical data for trends, but it is a structured approach. So it's about spotting patterns and clusters of innovations and analysing them. And we'll be asking how our exposure to those triggers new consumer expectations, which can quickly transfer across different industries and regions. And of course, if we spot a gap between rising expectations and what's currently available in our market, then that's a sweet spot for innovation. And if you're thinking, well, this approach isn't for me because my business is unique, so there's no value for me watching how my competitors innovate. Well, the good news is consumer expectations are often set outside your sector, so this approach is about scanning your environment much more widely. Just think about those moments when you personally experience great service or great design or convenience at the touch of a button, and it's so good you go home and tell everyone about it. Think about how that starts to trigger your own expectations and how those can transfer to what you want and expect in other areas of life. So if you stopped for a coffee today, maybe it made you think, why can't every brand let me customize my product like Starbucks? Now, even if you're not a coffee drinker, you've almost certainly heard someone else order their coffee with a different flavour syrup or swap regular milk for soya. It's just become so ingrained in our culture. Henry Ford famously said customers could have their car any colour they wanted so long as it was black. But we all know that era of the passive consumer has gone. You might choose a product that's off the shelf and ready to go, but often we just want to make a couple of changes. Now, customization is one of many trends that we could group under the umbrella of a broader trend called universe, and that's all about our desire to be seen and served as unique individuals. Buying a customized product gives me the opportunity to make choices for myself and express my individuality. And the more I see and experience customization in different areas of my life, the more that expectation is triggered, that brands will make it easy for me to customize products from a range of options to match my preferences. It's worth saying customers are often prepared to pay more for that, and it can increase brand loyalty and advocacy. So let's look briefly at a few innovations in this area for some inspiration. Wonderbly created the Lost My Name books in 2013, and they've released other titles since then. Now, the books aren't bespoke for each reader, but you do choose from a number of variables. So most obviously, you select your child's name, and the letters of that name will determine which characters and stories appear in the book. You can also choose things like gender, location, interests, and those help customize the content. If you're wondering, is this just a small niche? Well, they've sold 3 million so far, and they secured the best equity deal in the history of Dragon's Den. A more recent innovation is the Collectionist Hotel, which launched this year in Sydney, and each of the 39 suites has a unique look, although they fall into 4 broad categories. Instead of being allocated a room, you get to choose which one you want when you check in. So that means you can pick the one that best fits your personality. Now, that's a one-off boutique hotel, but what about a big mainstream package holiday provider? Surely they can't include any customization. Well, this year, Thomas Cook introduced the ability to pre-select your room in about 75 hotels. So let's say you prefer a specific room on the ground floor with easy access to the pool. You could select that a week before travel online from about £30. Now, this is a new brand called Meraki Travel, that's about to launch in November, and it's from the same group as Kuoni. They're targeting consumers who want something in between off the shelf and traditional tailor-made. And it's people who are confident to start with a basic holiday structure and then customize it using a simple online itinerary builder. So you add experience packs depending on your interests, or you choose from different styles and standards of accommodation, and the price will dynamically update. So what's interesting is they referred to having watched trends outside the sector to come up with this idea. And they saw that demonstrated an audience that's increasingly comfortable customizing big ticket purchases for themselves online. So, for example, they mentioned the furniture brand Made.com. They also mentioned Mini's innovation, which launched at the end of last year, and that allows customers to customize the body parts of their car. And it's for specific areas, and it's things like interior trim or door sills. So it's clear that these innovations aren't about totally bespoke product. We're not talking about tailor-made design from the ground up for every individual, or it's not total flexibility. It's about the opportunity to make some changes or some choices from a limited range of options so that customers can feel the product fits them just that little bit more closely. So how relevant is customization to the travel sector? Well, according to a Deloitte report, 53% of people are interested in buying some kind of customized product in the holidays category. And that's more than any other product category, by the way. Now, for the 25 to 39 age bracket, that was as high as 61%. And almost half of consumers would prefer to be led by brands and choose from a selection of options rather than have total free rein. So the question is, how could your brand meet or exceed rising expectations in this area? Or maybe your brand already offers customers some ability to customize their experience, but you just want to draw a little more attention to it in your marketing. Of course, customization and this broader universe trend is just one of many trends to be aware of. I could also highlight the trend for exclusive products that meets our need for social status. Now, that could be a unique one-off expedition or a trip to a brand new destination that's just opened up and no one else has been yet. And this is where a lot of innovation in the travel industry tends to cluster. But I'm just going to touch on one other trend that I'm particularly interested in, and it combines elements from a couple of broader trends called better business and local love. Now, at the intersection of those, there's a trend that I'm calling local hero. It's about brilliant products that prioritize purpose over profit, and the fact that consumers love brands that celebrate their local place. Now, bearing in mind when it comes to the travel industry examples, local is the destination where our experience takes place. I'm just going to dive into a few examples of the trend before we wrap up. The first is the annual Shop Small campaign from American Express. So they draw your attention to small local businesses that accept your Amex by providing an online map, and then they financially reward you every time you shop at one. And that helps your local high street to survive or thrive. The next example is Patagonia Action Works. This launched in North America this year, and there are plans to roll out to Europe next year. This initiative links their customers with local grassroots organisations so they can donate, volunteer, or join campaigns. Now, Patagonia is already well known for being a purpose-driven business in terms of its clothing production and various national campaigns. But this helps set the expectation that brands can also do more to help the local community and environment, the place that's most meaningful to you. Moving on to travel innovations, we have the Ripple Score, which G Adventures launched this month. It's a way of travellers knowing that they're using locally owned hotels and services, and the higher the Ripple Score on your tour, the more money stays in the local community. Now, this is something that most of the socially conscious tour operators already do well with in some areas of the world. But in some more developed destinations, I think there's still a gap, and brands haven't fully met the rising expectations for local flavour and local benefit. So if your North America tour stays in a hotel chain like Hilton or Holiday Inn, for example, then technically it's American owned, but that might not be what customers expect local to mean. However, G's Ripple score is a great way of raising those expectations, that brands will deliver a local experience and that more customer dollars will stay in local communities. So it's a great innovation. Next, we have Detroit Foundation Hotel, which opened this year. Now, pretty much everything's locally sourced, from collaborations with local retail brands to the choice of minibar snacks, even the wallpaper. It's 5 years since the city of Detroit filed for bankruptcy, and there are lots of businesses here that are really doubling down on efforts to regenerate the local economy. But this is about more than that. It's also local pride and celebrating Detroit's style and skill. If you stay here, you're getting to enjoy that distinctly local experience, and you know that you're benefiting the area economically. Finally, I love this economic nutrition label from Fogo Island Inn. Now, pricing transparency is a separate trend all of its own, and it's not always about local love. But in this instance, travellers who stay here know they're truly benefiting the local community. And you can see that 60% or more of their dollars stay on Fogo Island. And that's definitely not a budget hotel, so that's a lot of dollars, by the way. What's the expectation triggered by all these innovations? It's that brands don't just do some good for the wider world, they'll help sustain and support the local community and environment. So finally, what's next? Well, the trends we've talked about, like customization and local hero, are just a taste of the trend-driven approach to innovation. But hopefully you've seen how unlocking the trends behind the latest global innovations, and that's both in and outside your industry, can help bring a fresh perspective to your own activity. If you like having tools that help you analyse trends in a more structured way, there's a useful trend framework behind all of this. So please reach out if you'd like to learn more about that, or for some help in getting started using it in your own business.